So India win in Guwahati, India win the series on a day where lots of runs were scored in this South Africa-India T20. We look back at the second one on ESPN Cricket for T20 timeout. Wasim, Jaffer and Makhaya and Ntini with me. I think the scales were balanced after Thiruvananthapuram surface and this one. We got lots of runs. Let's start with you, Wasim. India's most impressive top four performance?
Absolutely. I mean, this is the ideal, the template probably India would want to bat. There's not many days where your top four or five batters bat the way you want them to. Everybody getting started, everybody striking at 150, 160. Surya Kumar Yadav was exceptional, as usual. And I think his inning was standout. It made the difference that India got probably 15 or 20 runs more, which was actual the case. India were a little bit ahead in the game. If India would have got 210, 15, I think South Africa would have probably chased down. But I think the batters, put on a perfect show.
Yeah, well, now let me ask Makhaya and Ntini. I think more than appreciating India's batting, I'd like to ask him how would you describe that South African bowling performance, Makhaya? Makhaya, just need to unmute. You'll need to unmute yourself, and then we'll be good to go. You got me, Makhaya? Could you say something?
Are you happy?
Yes, very happy now. All right. Now, how do you describe that South African bowling performance, Makhaya?
Now, to be honest, the honest truth, they bowled badly. There was no focus. I think their length was very poor. They didn't have any consistency in the length, and they were bowling all over the place. And I think the frustration with them, is not to find that good length. It only one ball that hit a good length, the rest were disappearing. I think the frustration within all of that, we all say that because of the dew, because of the way that the ball was slippering in their hands. For my liking, there was no plan. There was no plan whatsoever. Everybody was on its own. Nobody goes to the bowler and say, listen, what you thinking? They was just disappearing. I think from here onwards, and then they're facing up the World Cup, is going to be a lot of struggle. I thought that because they brought Ngidi back, at least they will have a little bit of support when it comes to the seamers. Look at that. Maharaj, he was the only one who could be, effective when it comes to the bowling point of view. Every single one from the seamers' point of view, they were disappearing.
Wasim, did South Africa air in selection here? We thought they might do with the extra seamer the other day. Today they played to the extra spinner the other day. Today they played the extra seamer where Maharaj was the standout bowler.
Yeah, I think they've got the planning wrong again. I mean, on this kind of a surface, probably you would have played Shamsi the other way around. And Ngidi should have played in the first one. Maharaj was the only standout bowler, being a spinner. And I think they missed the Shamsi. They missed the trick by not picking him. But India won't mind that. I think the pace on the ball and the length, like Makhaya said, they erred on length too many times. There were too many full tosses, and India made the best use of it.
Well, even though it's we're discussing India's batting overall, Wasim Jaffer makes the point that Surya Kumar Yadav stood out. Everyone got runs. Surya was still the standout inning, striking at nearly 278. Makhaya, I think you've seen enough of Surya Kumar Yadav now. When he plays the way he does, how do bowlers bowl to him?
No, I'm thinking outside the box here, and putting myself in those guys' shoes. I think the plan didn't come through. And I think the only way that I can be able to restrict him not to go, hard on them is to find a length that is suitable for them, that I can be able to restrict him not to score boundaries. But it didn't happen at all. It's one of those things that when you have a seamer attack, you need all of you to buy in one mindset, saying ball outside of stump, find a good length. Because if I compare South Africa and then Indian seamers, especially when it comes to the first power play, the length that India has bowled, it was one of those good lengths that where you are not sure if you should go, straight away because the ball is still swinging. But from the South African point of view, they were bowling in that 7 and 8 length. That gives him more time to see where the ball is going to swing or is going to go straight. That's one of the things that I think for South African point of view, they need to identify the length that is important and the length that can be able to be consistent into it and try to make sure that they are not going for runs. South Africa was going 11 runs and over in the first 6 overs. So for me, that was, a game over from there.
All right, something for Themba Bavuma to think about, even though the South African already has plenty to think about with regard to his own form. We'll discuss that in a moment as we look ahead to the third and final T20I on ESPN Cricket for T20 timeout with Makhaya, Ntini and Wasim Jaffer. Now, it's one of those last games then, Wasim, for at least competitive games, if we rule out the practice matches. India have taken the series. The top four are firing. These reserve bowlers have done, you think, a decent job. Anything you'd like to see ahead of the final one?
Well, I think the bowling, the death bowling, I thought they bowled really well in the power play. I think Deepak Chahar was a standout. I think India bowled really well in the power play. But the death bowling, Herschel struggling again. I think Deepak Chahar, that 16th over that he bowled, would have given a lot of confidence that he can bowl in the death, the variations that he showed. But Ashdeep having an off day, two or three no balls, and then going over 60. Harshal Patel struggling as well. But I don't think India has got any other option. You've got to stick with them, and you just need to back them because so close to the tournament, you don't want to chop and change. You just need to show trust in them. That's the best we have got. Probably Mohammad Shami is the only guy that they can think of at this point. But I think India need to do better in that department. If at all, anything which is a grey area for India, that's the death bowling which is struggling.
All right. Now, South Africa's last T20 as well, ahead of the World Cup. Makhaya going into this game, they've lost a couple of wickets early in both games. So at what point
Yeah.
do we talk about Themba Bavuma and how would you handle that situation?
It's very simple. Temba has been under the pump. Now he's got 2 games, and then he goes up for a duck. And then Rari Rusol as well hasn't done much for South Africa yet. And then you've got a guy that is sitting outside, Reza Hendricks. He has scored 550s in a row in the last, couple of games that he played in England and Ireland. So why don't you use him up front and being able to at least to give him a chance, because he's in good form, regardless of what fighting of the position, up at the top. But you need to utilize a person that is already in good form. Yes, you might have lost the game and then only losing 3 wickets, but we need someone that can be dangerous up at the top. You look at India. If Sharma does not pull through, you've got someone that is coming in. You've got Virat Kohli as well, who that is in good form. Man, you've got Pandya, who's in good form. We haven't seen Pant, it's another thing that South Africa, they need to be very careful of. We haven't seen the whole batting lineup of India. And then we as the South Africans, and then we are worried about, our top order, whereby we have so many players that are sitting outside. We are in good form. They can really, really damage up front. Leaving all up to David Miller is not going to happen every day. Quinton de Kock as well, you can see that he's struggling. He's not really, really, kicking in, as we all know, that he can be able to do that and being dangerous up the top. But he needs someone as well who can be able to help him. Not in the first over, we're already losing a wicket. South Africa, they need to think very carefully when it comes, to the 2 top orders. Yes, Ravuma is not even good. Rari Rusol is not even good. Who else that we have to wait for him and as well, not being able, to perform? But we need to be very, very careful and think quickly. Even if in the next game now we can say, Bavuma and Rari Rusol, please, guys, you can sit out in this one. We want to see Reza Hendricks. And then you've got Klassen as well. Klassen can open. So you do have players, but you need to utilize them now before it's too late.
All right. Yeah, strong words from Makhaya and Ntini. Wasim, same 11 for India for you. Any changes?
Well, I mean, if at all, you'll probably want to test, Yajwinder Chahal maybe, but I don't know. Probably unlikely that that's going to happen. India, I mean, because of Hardik Pandya and Deepak Hooda is not there. India struggles with that sixth. India don't have that sixth option, which is not going to happen as well in the third T20. But I think if at all, I would say They can probably give a game to Yuzi Chahal and see how he goes against the left-handers. Can he get his googlies right? He doesn't bowl too many googlies, but that is the only way probably to test him out. Other than that, I don't think much changes.
All right, we'll pick up the conversation at the end of that T20I. Big thank you to Wasim Jaffer and Makhaya and Ntini. Plenty more from them as this series rolls on ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout.